There is a moment late at night when the noise finally stops. No phone, no opinions, no comparisons. Just you, alone with your own mind. And in that silence, most people feel something they don't expect. Fear. Because the moment the outside world disappears, they realize they don't actually know who they are without it. You've built your identity on what people think of you, what they say, what they expect, what they might post, whisper, or judge. And somewhere along the way, you stopped living your life and started performing it. But here's what almost nobody realizes until it's too late. The people you're trying to impress are just as lost as you are. They're not watching you as closely as you think. They're too busy watching everyone else. The ancient Stoics understood something that modern life is buried under noise, notifications, and comparison. They knew that peace isn't found in the world outside you. It's found in the silence you keep inside you. Today, you're going to learn why turning inward, mastering silence, and releasing your obsession with others isn't weakness. It's the beginning of real power. And by the end of this, you'll understand why the strongest people you've ever met were always the quietest. Most people spend their entire lives reacting. Someone criticizes them and their whole mood shifts. Someone succeeds and jealousy creeps in silently. Someone ignores them and suddenly they feel worthless. This is the trap. You've handed the keys to your emotions to people who don't even think about you as much as you think about them. Marcus Aurelius faced this exact struggle as an emperor surrounded by flatterers, critics, and enemies. His answer wasn't to control others. It was to control his attention. He constantly reminded himself to return to his own mind, to stop wasting energy on things outside his power. The lesson is simple, but rarely practiced. Other people's opinions are not your responsibility. Your reaction to them is. Ask yourself honestly, how much of your day is spent reacting to people who will forget the interaction by tomorrow? But here's the deeper problem most people never see. It's not just other people that steal your peace. It's silence itself that people are terrified of. Picture someone sitting alone in a quiet room. 5 minutes pass. 10, already they reach for their phone. Not because they need it, but because the silence feels unbearable. This is not a small habit. This is a spiritual emergency hiding in plain sight. Seneca wrote that many people flee from themselves as if they were fugitives, restless, and unable to bear their own company. He saw this 2,000 years ago, and it has only gotten worse. Silence forces you to face your thoughts without distraction. No performance. No audience. Just raw honesty about who you are and what you actually want. The practical lesson here is uncomfortable but necessary. Sit in silence for 10 minutes a day, without your phone, without noise, without escape. Be honest with yourself. What comes up when there's nothing left to distract you? Most people avoid this exercise their entire lives. But the ones who don't avoid it discover something the crowd never will. Epictetus taught something that changes everything once you truly absorb it. He said, "Some things are within our power, while others are not." Our opinions, our desires, our own judgments are within our power. Other people's opinions, actions, and reputations of us are not. Think about how much suffering comes from forgetting this one distinction. You worry about what your coworkers think. You obsess over how you looked in a photo. You replay a conversation, wondering if you said the wrong thing. None of that is yours to control. And yet you carry it like it is. The practical shift is this. Before reacting to anyone's opinion, ask yourself, is this within my control? If not, release it immediately. Not with anger, but with calm acceptance. This single habit, practiced daily, can dissolve years of anxiety. But there's something even more important coming next. Something that explains why silence itself becomes your greatest weapon. If these ideas are starting to shift something in you, that's not an accident. You're exactly where you're meant to be right now. Most people scroll past wisdom like this without ever applying it. But you're still here, which tells me you're serious about becoming someone stronger, calmer, and harder to shake. So if this is helping you, consider subscribing so these lessons keep finding you when you need them most. And if one part of this speaks directly to you, drop a comment. I read everyone. Now let's go deeper. Imagine two men insulted in public. The first explodes, defends himself loudly, and spends the rest of the day angry, replaying the moment over and over. The second stays quiet, unaffected, almost unreadable. Which one do you think walks away with more power? Silence, in the Stoic sense, isn't weakness or passivity. It's restraint. It's the ability to witness chaos without becoming chaos yourself. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself not to waste his remaining time on thoughts about other people, unless it related to the common good. He understood that every second spent obsessing over someone else's opinion was a second stolen from his own growth. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every time you explain yourself to people who were never going to understand you anyway, you lose a piece of your peace. The next time someone provokes you, try saying nothing. Watch how much power silence actually holds. But there's a deeper reason silence works so well, and it has to do with where your energy actually goes. Energy is invisible, but it's real. Every thought about someone else's life, someone else's success, someone else's opinion of you, drains a small amount of energy you could have used to build your own life. Think about the last time you compared yourself to someone online. How did you feel afterward? Lighter or heavier? Comparison is one of the most efficient thieves of peace ever created. It convinces you that your worth depends on being ahead of someone else, rather than being aligned with yourself. Seneca warned that comparing our lives to others is a recipe for endless dissatisfaction, because there will always be someone who appears to have more. The lesson here isn't to stop noticing others. It's to stop measuring yourself against them. Would your life change if you simply stopped checking where you stand compared to everyone else? Most people can't answer that honestly. But the next lesson reveals exactly why that question matters so much. There's a quiet kind of confidence that doesn't need applause. You've probably met someone like this. They don't chase validation. They don't perform for approval. They simply exist calmly, without needing permission to be who they are. This is what happens when you finally stop performing for others and start living for yourself. Epictetus taught that we suffer not from events themselves, but from our judgments about them. If you stop needing others to validate your choices, their opinions lose their grip on you entirely. Picture someone who used to check their phone constantly for reactions to their posts. Now imagine that same person, months later, posting simply because they enjoy it, not because they need approval. That shift from performing to living is one of the most freeing transformations a person can experience. Ask yourself, how much of what you do is for yourself, and how much is for an audience? The answer to that question leads directly into something most people never confront. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Many people are addicted not to attention itself, but to the reassurance that they matter. This addiction is quiet. It doesn't look like addiction. It looks like checking notifications, reading messages, wondering why someone hasn't replied. But underneath it is a fear. The fear of being forgotten, overlooked, or unimportant. Marcus Aurelius faced enormous public pressure as emperor, yet he wrote privately to himself, not for an audience, reminding himself that his worth wasn't determined by fame or recognition. The practical lesson is this. Start doing things nobody will see. Read without posting about it. Improve yourself without announcing it. Sit with your own thoughts without needing to share them. This builds an inner foundation that doesn't crumble when the applause stops, because it was never built on applause to begin with. Does this sound familiar? Have you ever done something good only to feel unsatisfied because no one noticed? That feeling fades the moment you understand the next principle. And it might be the most important one yet. Real strength is invisible to almost everyone except the person who has it. Picture a man who lost everything, his reputation, his money, his social standing, yet remained calm. Not because he didn't feel pain, but because his peace was never dependent on those things in the first place. This is the essence of Stoic self-reliance. Seneca often reminded himself and his students that external things, wealth, reputation, other people's opinions, could be taken away in an instant. But character, judgment, and inner discipline could not. Most people build their identity like a house with no foundation, resting entirely on things outside their control. The moment those things shake, their entire sense of self collapses. The alternative is to build your identity from the inside out. Your discipline, your values, your honesty with yourself. What would happen if everything external disappeared tomorrow? Would you still recognize yourself? That question terrifies most people. But it's exactly the question that leads to true freedom, which is what comes next. Freedom, in the Stoic sense, isn't the absence of rules. It's the absence of dependency on things outside your control. When you stop needing people to agree with you, approve of you, or validate you, something remarkable happens. Their opinions become background noise instead of a verdict on your worth. Think of someone who used to lie awake wondering what people thought of a decision they made. Now imagine that same person, years later, making decisions based purely on their own values, sleeping peacefully regardless of outside judgment. That transformation isn't magic. It's practice. Epictetus taught that freedom comes from focusing entirely on what is within your power and treating everything else as none of your concern. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop outsourcing your peace to them. Have you ever noticed how much lighter you feel the moment you stop needing someone's approval? That lightness is the beginning of the final lesson, the one that ties everything together. Everything you've heard so far points toward one final truth. The quality of your life is determined by where you place your attention. If your attention lives outside you, constantly monitoring others, comparing, reacting, performing, your peace will always be borrowed and temporary. But if your attention lives inside you, in silence, in self-honesty, in disciplined thought, your peace becomes permanent, untouchable, yours. Marcus Aurelius spent his final years reminding himself, again and again, to return to himself, to stop being pulled outward by the noise of the world. This is not isolation. It's not coldness. It's mastery. The people who master this don't need to announce their strength. It shows in how calm they remain when everyone else panics. It shows in how quiet they are when everyone else argues. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to understand yourself. That shift, once it happens, cannot be undone. And once you feel it, you'll wonder how you ever lived any other way. So here's what we've uncovered today. Peace was never outside you. It was always hidden beneath the noise you allowed in. Silence isn't empty, it's where your real self finally speaks. Other people's opinions were never your responsibility, only your reactions were. You don't need applause to know your worth. You don't need agreement to trust your path. You only need the discipline to return, again and again, to yourself. Which lesson challenged you the most today? Write it in the comments. I read every single one. If this changed how you see yourself, even slightly, subscribe, because there's more wisdom like this waiting for you. Like this video if it reached you. Share it with someone who needs silence more than noise right now. And remember what Marcus Aurelius knew long before any of us. The best revenge and the deepest peace is simply to become nothing like those who disturbed you. Stay silent. Stay strong. Stay yours.